Alright, gang. This is Module 1 for the 2014 multiple choice. And I guess in 2014 they only released 10 for each module, but this video is going to be all 10 of the multiple choice items for Module 1. Alright, so when factored completely, which is a factor of 12a x squared minus 3a? Well, I'm just going to write this down again. And they said completely, which the reason they include that in the directions is that sometimes you can do two different rounds of factoring. So let's factor this one. So the first method that you should always try to do is factoring out a GCF, a greatest common factor. So 12ax squared and this 3a or negative 3a, the greatest common factor, the greatest factor that they both have, I would say, is that they both have a factor of 3a. That's the largest common factor. So we're going to take that out as a GCF. You know, in other words, like undistribute from both terms and leave the remaining factors in the bubble here with the 3a out in front. So it's like we're doing the distributive property backwards when you divide or factor out a GCF. And so what's left over from the 12ax squared would be the 4x squared. You know, in other words, 3a times 4x squared, that would get you the 12a x squared. When you divide 3a from 3a, what's going to remain in the bubble is a 1. That's something some people forget sometimes, that when you're taking a GCF of 3a and you're dividing it from the 3a, some people think there's nothing that remains there when actually what you put there as the other factor is a 1. And now you need to recognize that this bubble is a difference of two perfect squares. Okay? Well, time out for a second. I'm thinking the answer is going to be C. I mean, look, because at this point, after dividing out a GCF, factoring out a GCF, we have a factor of 3 and a factor of a, essentially a factor of 3a. And we have a factor of 4x squared minus 1, which is actually going to factor some more. But, you know, I mean, look, because this isn't going to factor again. And we already know that 3a is going to be one of the final factors of this whole thing. So I think it's going to be C, but just for, you know, a thorough review, let's review how, like, a difference of two squares will factor again into a couple bubbles, essentially unfoil. So 4x squared is a perfect square, 1 is a perfect square, and what you're going to do is take the square root of 4x squared, which is 2x, and that's going to begin each bubble, and then the square root of the 1, which is 1, is going to end each bubble. So this is the final factored form when you factored completely. So we have a factor of 3a, a factor of 2x plus 1, and a factor of 2x minus 1. So if you would have seen, like, let's say this choice D would have been like 2x minus 1, that would have been the answer, but I don't see any 2x plus 1s or 2x minus 1s in the choices, so I'm going to go with C like I said earlier. Alright, number 2, I want you to simplify. Okay, so you're going to sort of like cancel common factors. Okay? And in order to cancel common factors, you're going to have to take the bottom, sort of simplify it, or, well, expand it all out, and multiply this x through the bubble and get x squared minus 4x. That's distributing. And now I'm going to take this entire denominator with the minus 21 included, and I'm going to now factor that, because whenever you want to simplify these rational expressions, essentially these like complicated looking fractions, you got to make sure that you factor top and you factor the bottom, and you only cancel out common factors. And this denominator was a mess to begin with. I mean, you pretty much have to like reset it in a way, and like I did here, like this is kind of resetting the denominator, and now I'm going to factor it from scratch, and there's no greatest common factor with x squared, negative 4x, negative 21, but it will unfoil, or it will factor into like two binomial bubbles, because I can start off the bubbles with x, and then the two numbers that multiply to get negative 21, but they also add up to negative 4, that's going to be minus 7 and plus 3. And now that I'm looking at factors, I have essentially two bubbles of x minus 7 up here, one bubble of x minus 7 here. So this bubble of x minus 7 is going to cancel with one of the x minus 7 bubbles up top, and so that's basically going to become in a way a 1. And so my final answer, because I can't do any more canceling, my final answer is going to be like one factor of x minus 7 up here that's left over, and then a factor of x plus 3, which is left down there. No more canceling, people, because remember, you can only cancel factors, so nothing else can really cancel. And the answer here is going to be D. Number 3, they're telling you that L is the length and W is the number of weeks, and then they ask for the estimated, like they say, what is the length after 10 weeks? So essentially, they're telling you a value for W, because they're telling you a number of weeks. And so all you do is you kind of plug that in, and you do 10 divided by 4, and then you add 8, and that's what's going to equal L. So 10 divided by 4, that should be 2.5. And so L, the number of centimeters in length, is going to be 10.5. Next. Number 4. Mrs. Bernard monitored the growth of a fish. So the fish originally weighed 27 ounces. The fish grew at a rate of 5 ounces per month. That's like a rate, like it's a slope. The equation. Okay, so basically they've explained this equation, and then they just gave you the equation after kind of explaining it, you know. It's weird how they do that. They will give 2 or 3 sentences explaining the situation, and then they just give you the equation for free, you know. That anyway, Mrs. Bernard correctly determined that x equals 9. So if we were to solve that equation, we would get x equals 9. What does that solution mean? Well, based on the reading, 27 was the original weight, and then it's growing 5 ounces per month. So this 5 ounces per month is being multiplied to the variable x. What would you multiply to the rate of 5, like 5 times? Wouldn't you multiply the number of months times 5? So x is definitely representing the varying, some number of months. And so when you get a solution of x equals 9, that's going to mean 9 months. Okay? And the 72 must be like that total, like, final weight after 9 months. Okay? So the choice that says that is C. It took 9 months for the fish to grow to a weight of 72 ounces. Number 5, they give you a system of equations, and then they're not being too, mysterious about this. It's kind of blunt. It's like, what's the solution? So not dancing around it at all. They flat out ask for the solution. They flat out ask for what x equals and what y equals. So we have to solve this system of equations, okay? Now I hope when you see this, you see that everything's lined up. And not only that, you see that the y's are already perfect opposites. So if we do the elimination method, which I call the addition method, I mean, it's perfect. We can add these equations together right away because there's already opposites that are going to cancel out. So 2x plus 5x, that's going to be 7x. These are going to add each other away, like they're going to cancel out and bring down the equal sign. And 10 plus 4 is 14. So now I can get x by itself by dividing both sides by 7, and I get x equals 2. Well, okay, so I guess it's going to be B or C. So we do have to find y by plugging in our newly found x value, like our solution for x. So you can pick either equation. I'm going to pick the first one. It looks a little bit more user-friendly. So now that I know that x equals 2, well, now it's not 2 times x, it's really 2 times 2, because x is now, I know x is 2. So you plug it in, and we're going to have to solve for y. So that's a 4. And now I just got to get y by itself, solving for y, right? So when I divide both sides by 2, I'm going to get y equals 3. So 2 comma 3, that would be C. Number 6, 1 answered all 50. Are they doing it again? Are they explaining like the entire system and then just giving you the system of equations? Seems like it. Number of questions he answered correctly is x. Number of questions he answered incorrectly is y. That is probably going to be important. So it looks like there was 50 total questions. When we add the number of questions he answered correctly with the number of questions he answered incorrectly, the total is 50. And if you read this, you see that he got 102 total points. And so, okay, so we're going to multiply 3 and x together because it was 3 points he received for every correct answer, for every correct question. So that's why you multiply 3 in this x variable. And it looks like we lose 1 point. Okay, so that's why it's minus 1y. All right. So this says part of the solution of the system equation is that x equals 38. What does this represent? Oh my God! Hold on. So the final answer, basically, they say it right here. Knowing that x. So all you have to do is notice that x was the number of questions that he answered correctly. Oh my gosh. So is it A? Number of question one is correctly. Number of x equals 30. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep. Huh, that's funny. Jason, that's the best name ever. Jason decided that he will sell his stocks if their value per share X goes below $5 or above $15. Which compound inequality represents the values? Okay, so they're basically asking which answer mathematically says below $5 or above $15? Well, it's not this, because this doesn't mean like that, no. And that's not above 15 either. So below 5 or below, it's going to be B, because they specifically use the word or, and these are ands. So this is the one that means below $5, so because that's a less than, people, less than $5, or X is greater than $15. So that was very, very straightforward. Like that was a very one-dimensional problem where all they want you to do is translate the words to inequalities. Oh, again, this is, man, 2014 was a simple year, seemingly. All they want you to do here is solve this simple inequality and pick the correct final graph. That's easy. So we have to get x's only on one side. So I'm going to do that to get the x's only on the left. And that's going to make 2x, and then the plus 2 comes down, and then less than 9. And now I just want to get this x all by itself. Remember, if you ever find yourself dividing both sides of an inequality by a negative number, then you have to flip the inequality symbol. But I did not do that here. Like, I ended up dividing both sides by a positive 2. And so this is 7/2, which is 3.5. So x is less than. So people, this symbol means that there's going to be an open circle. Well, look, they're all open circles. So it's not like you had to, I don't know, make that tough decision. Not really a tough decision, but you know, all the choices have an open circle. So whatever. And less than 3.5. Well, that's not even 3.5. The only one that's even 3.5 is B. So this is 3.5, and this is everything less than 3.5. Number 9, 2 more to go. A ticket to a baseball. Once again, they explain everything, and then they give you the inequality, you know, for free. A ticket would cost $20. Each soda, so when the game costs $5. Sean may spend no more than $50. So because of this no more than $50, that's why it's less than or equal to 50. I mean, that's kind of like the mathematical translation. You can spend no more than 50. So you can spend 50 or less. So less than or equal to 50. He buys 1 ticket and X sodas. So they're literally saying that X is the number of sodas, and we're only buying 1 ticket, so that's why it was plus 20 and not like plus 40 or plus 60 or plus 80. Anyway, so they're saying that, oh my gosh, this is so simple, like these concepts behind the questions. So they tell you that the solution is x is less than or equal to 6. And they just ask which statement best describes that. Well, remember, see, all you have to do is notice or interpret that this x variable had to be the number of sodas. In fact, they blatantly told you that x was the number of sodas. So this means we're going to buy 6 or fewer sodas. I mean, that's literally all that means. You know, x is the number of sodas, so Sean buys 6 or fewer sodas. One more. Ooh, this looks like a good one. A group of friends will buy at most 8 snacks and spend no more than $42. They will pay $4 for each box of candy and $7 for... Okay, the system inequality. All right, so we could... So let's see here. So X is the number of boxes of candy, apparently, and Y is the number of bags of popcorn. So, like, look, we could say, like, X plus Y has to be at most 8. So that would be one of the inequalities in the system. And then we can spend no more than $42. So $4 for a box of candy. So that would get multiplied to the x. And then $7. And that, when you add up all that money, that needs to be, $4 times some number of candy boxes, and then 7 times some number of bags of popcorn. That needs to be no more than 42. So I probably didn't need to write all this down, but I just wanted to show you that this would have been the system of inequalities, but they already graphed it for you, and I bet that means they were doing you a huge favor. Like, I bet all you really need is to end up looking at the graph, okay? Because this graph is going to be all of the solutions that allow this group of friends to spend or to buy at most 8 snacks, but spend no more than $42. I bet all the solutions are on the graph. Anyway, so the question's asking, which combination of boxes of candy and bags of popcorn could the group buy? Remembering that candy is X and bags of popcorn is Y. Let's say 2 boxes of candy. So this is like, so I guess finally cutting to the chase here, What choice A is essentially asking is 2, 6 in the shaded area? 2, 6 is not in the shaded area. Okay? Choice B, could they buy 3 boxes of candy and 4 bags of popcorn? So remember, candy is X and popcorn's Y. So 3, 4, is that saying? 3, 4. So is 3, 4? It looks like it is. It looks like it is. It looks promising, but as always, we're not just going to stop and pick B. We're going to make sure that it's not C or D. So 5, 4, 5, 4 is right there. So it's not 5, 4 because that's right there. And then 8, 1. Let's just make sure that 8, 1 is not in the shading. Because remember, all the solutions are in the shaded area. And so yeah, 8, 1 is right there, so it's not 8, 1. So it turns out that it was B. I knew it was B.